Good morning, everyone. Good evening if you're on the other side of the world. I'm going to spend just a couple minutes today. Not going to make a really long video, but wanted to get it documented nonetheless to talk about a very simple trading strategy, and it has worked very well. Many times in the past, and it's proven to be, to be accurate over and over and over again. This is one trading strategy of many, many, many different strategies. This is trading based on divergence. A lot of people. They see a major price move in the market and they think that it's going to continue and it's not going to stop. And at some point, a price is going to stop moving in that direction. The momentum is going to slow down, and the price is going to turn around and start going in the opposite direction. But how do you know that, right? So before I get started, one, I'm not a mind reader. I don't know what the entire world is thinking at that moment in time. So we don't know for sure. This is why it's a strategy and um, it's not guaranteed, right? This is just a trading strategy. Um, Also, I wouldn't consider any of this financial advice. Obviously, with this being a strategy, it's not guaranteed, and there are many cases where this doesn't work. I will show you how to get a decent entry and also how to set a proper stop loss. So those are two very important parts to setting up a trade. You have to know a stop loss. You have to have a good entry, and you have to basically have a plan for how you're going to exit the trade. So right now we're looking at Bitcoin on the 15-minute time frame. This is based on um, the BitMEX perpetual. So this is XBT USD. I just want to make sure you can see my screen. And I don't think you can. So let me see if I can get my screen sharing working here. There we go. Okay. All right. Excellent. Um, Yes. All right. So now I know that you can see my screen here. We're looking at Bitcoin on the 15-minute time frame. Obviously, there was some stuff going on in the market last night. Binance was doing system maintenance, so everybody thought, well, as soon as that happens, the price is just going to dive straight off the deep end, and it's just going to just continue going, and it's not going to stop. Because when you look at Bitcoin from a higher time frame, if I look at it from a daily time frame, you can tell there's a lot going on here. I'm not going to take a whole lot of time talking about sort of the support and the resistance lines that I've got drawn here. But you can see we had a huge rejection, and we have the commonly referred to rising channel, and then we expect it's going to pop back down here to $3,500. And while I do believe that will happen, that doesn't mean it's going to happen you know in one candle, right? It certainly can, but you do have to sort of take yourself to a lower time frame and to look and see what the market is actually doing. So if we do that, if we go ahead and move our way down to, say, even a 4-hour time frame, let's look at this on a 4-hour time frame. Okay, so we saw a low here and we saw a low here. So when you're looking for divergence, you're going to be looking for the price to create a lower low or a price to create a higher high, but you're also going to be looking for some of these common indicators to show the opposite. We don't see that on a 4-hour time frame. So I'm going to look at the MACD here. We see we've got a lower low from this candle compared to this candle. But as far as the MACD is concerned, we had a lower low on the indicator. So from a longer term perspective, I wouldn't necessarily expect the price to skyrocket. But that's not to say that it can't. I'm just saying that this specific strategy doesn't support that theory. But let's go down to a 1 hour time frame. This one gets much more interesting because you are allowing more data to be shown in more candles. Now, let's look at this. We have our low here. This is at about 3,800. We had some support there. And then we had a classic rising wedge, right? So this is the strike rate on a rising wedge. I know this is completely unrelated to trading based off divergence, but the strategy, or sorry, the strike rate on a rising wedge is really pretty good. That it's almost guaranteed to fall out of that rising wedge. It almost always happens. You can see we had a rising channel here and it broke. We had a rising wedge here and it broke. We're starting to do something like that here. Of course, you really do want to have, at least for these on a lower time frame, you want to see multiple tests of support and resistance levels to really confirm it's a channel. And actually, I'm just kind of looking back. You can see we had another one right here. Here's another rising wedge, and look what happened there. That was a huge rejection, right? Um, but anyway, back to divergence. On this candle, we had our test of 3,800, we had our rising wedge, and it failed, right? And this is where everybody said, oh, well, we're going to go down to 3,500. That is, if you're longer term, yes, I think that is likely where we're going to go. However, if you look at the shorter time frame, we had support here. We broke 3,800 and everybody says, "Oh, we broke 3,800. We're going to shoot right down to 3,600." The momentum was not there. And that is extremely important when you get a lower low, but on these indicators, and this is just a plain MACD indicator, right? So we can see this is our first low, this is our second low. I'm going to zoom in on this so you can see it very crystal clear. You can see this was our first low, the break of 3,800. This was our lower low on the price, but we have a higher low on the indicator, and it started to reverse. And once you see that, you know that there was some divergence on the price action. I'm gonna use the term, the bears didn't have enough momentum to keep the price moving south. We had support, and then we are getting even more support slightly below 3,800. So this is just on the MACD, nothing special about it. It's just a plain MACD indicator, right? Now, you also might ask the question, and I'll kind of point this out. Well, what about the MACD itself? And the MACD is actually this cyan line, the magenta line. This is your signal line, and this is just your histogram. I tend to trust the histogram more than I trust these signal lines down here. And actually, if you've seen some of my other videos, you may notice I don't even include these signal lines on my charts at all. I will simply have them disabled, and I will pay attention to only the histogram on the MACD itself. So that is one way to look at it. Also, let's take a look at the RSI. It's not as clear on the RSI as it is on the MACD, but you see it here as well. We have our lower low, the test of 3,800, that came down here to about 28, 29. And then on the retest, we didn't enter the bear zone. So if an RSI, breaks 30, and especially if it breaks 20, this is bear territory. If it goes above 70 or especially above 80, that's bull territory. Anything here in the middle is pretty much neutral. You can see that we attempted to enter bear territory when we did that test of 3,800, and we were not able to get into bear territory when we got to that retest of about 37.90 or somewhere really close to there. So now let's talk about trade strategy. How do you get a good trade on something like this? When the price is going down and it looks like it's just going to keep on going, when I'm looking at this from the top here, and we're only talking hours. So this is from midnight UTC all the way down here. I mean, that was a drop of 3%, $116. I mean, that's a pretty significant move over the course of almost a day. We went from midnight to 2,200 hours. So this right here, this price where it pivots and starts to head back up, this is an important price point. So this is 37.93. 37.93.50, somewhere right around there. BitMEX only trades in 50-cent increments. So right here, you can see this is where the price pivoted. So if you're going to use this as a divergence trade strategy, you're going to basically set your long position at whatever point that you can comfortably get into. If you can get it close to 3,800, if you want to wait for the next candle to confirm, sometimes people do like to wait for an additional candle to confirm before they enter that trade. That's fine. What you're going to find is you're going to allow yourself to give a little bit more back to the market. So this is what I tend to do. I tend to set my stop loss slightly below where that pivot was because, as we all know, things like to retest. That's exactly what happened here. We had this hit of 3,800, started to rise, and then the retest. The retest did break, but the momentum was lower, and we saw the reversal. So ideally, you would get a trade somewhere close to 3,800 because the price does tend to move quite a bit. You would set your stop loss, ideally 37.90, somewhere in that area, right? So you're potentially allowing yourself to give some back to the market. Whenever you enter a trade, you should be expecting to give, a certain amount back to the market in case you're wrong, because there are chances where you can be wrong. um, I was actively talking with our little community last night, and I said basically, you've got about a 2-to-1 odds. So I was aiming for a $32 move at the time, which would have taken me to about right here, because I do have a bearish bias. So I was playing this as a swing play only. So I was basically only looking for us to get somewhere into this cluster and to get a little bit of a rejection. Now, obviously, that trade was good. The trade worked. I did get stopped. The trade actually worked. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that, like this is the great trade, and all of my trades are good. No, that's not true. I'm not going to be that guy that says everything I say is going to be perfect, because it's not true. So I'm not going to be that guy that sits here and shows you all these really great trades. If you're in our server, you know that I was talking about this extensively last night as this was happening. So if you want the proof, you can join the Discord, and I'd be more than happy to show the proof to you. But nonetheless, this is what you have to look for as the stop loss. Wherever that pivot was, if you're going to use this as a trade strategy, you have to know when to get out. So yes, it's going to allow you to lose about 0.44%, but it'll allow you to gain about 0.84%. So that's my strategy. I'm looking for, where's my stop loss? Where am I looking to get out of this trade? Yes, I obviously could have allowed myself to get, an additional, that's actually a significant amount more that I could have gotten out of that trade. But I was only looking for a $32 move at that point, because the general trend is down. I have a short position, but I wanted to hedge along because I saw the divergence appearing. So this is on the 1 hour time frame. Just very, very quickly, I'm going to show you the 30-minute. 30-minute is the same way, right? We can see that here. This is 3,800. This is that retest of 37.94. So we can see we have the low here, and then we have a higher low on the indicator. The 15-minute time frame, this one's a little harder to read because we're not using this as a as checks and balances, because we have these tests that we have to deal with. So I'm going to ignore this test of 3,800, even though it still looks like the price, as far as the momentum goes on the MACD, it still looks pretty close. I want to pay more attention to these dips here. So on those dips, we had, a test here, a test here, and our last test here. So we had a triple divergence on the 15-minute time frame, and each one of those lower lows yielded a higher low on our MACD indicator. If you can spot the divergence on a higher time frame, the risk to reward is going to be greater for you. As you can see here on the 15-minute time frame, the divergence happened 3 times, but on the 30-minute, you only had, it only happened 1 time right here. And the same thing with the 1 hour, and especially the 1 hour. We had a clear signal that there was divergence on the 1 hour. So that's what I've got for you. Of course, if you have any questions or anything, feel free to join us on the Discord. We'd be more than happy to collaborate with you. I hope you enjoyed the video and have a great, great day.